Welcome back to Unstoppable Mindset. Today I want to talk about a woman who changed her life without making an announcement. She didn't gather people together. She didn't write a long explanation. She didn't argue, defend, or convince anyone. She simply became silent. Not weak, not afraid, not defeated. Silent. There comes a moment in life when wisdom teaches you something that experience could never fully explain. It teaches you that not every misunderstanding deserves clarification. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Many people spend years exhausting themselves trying to explain who they are. They explain their intentions. They explain their choices. They explain their dreams. They explain their boundaries. They explain why they left. They explain why they stayed. They explain why they changed. And yet, no matter how much they explain, some people still choose not to understand. The greatest mistake many people make is believing that understanding is created by explanation. It is not. Understanding is created by willingness. If someone is determined to misunderstand you, no amount of words will change their mind. The woman in this story discovered a powerful truth. She realized that every time she stopped her life to explain herself to people who had already judged her, she was giving away her energy. She was sacrificing her peace. She was placing her value in the hands of people who never intended to appreciate it. So she made a decision. She stopped defending herself against every criticism. She stopped trying to correct every rumor. She stopped trying to prove her worth to people who were committed to doubting it. And something remarkable happened. The more she stopped explaining herself, the more she discovered herself. Because confidence grows in silence. Purpose grows in silence. Strength grows in silence. A tree does not announce its growth. It simply grows. Day after day, root after root, branch after branch. And one day, everyone can see what was happening beneath the surface. Many people are waiting for permission to become who they were created to be. They are waiting for approval. They are waiting for validation. They are waiting for someone to finally understand them. But greatness does not require universal agreement. You do not need everyone to believe in your vision before you begin pursuing it. You do not need everyone to approve your decisions before you make them. You do not need everyone to understand your journey before you continue walking it. The woman who stopped explaining herself discovered that her peace was more valuable than winning arguments. She learned that silence is not the absence of strength. Sometimes silence is strength under control. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is refusing to engage in battles that do not deserve your attention. Sometimes maturity is knowing that your future needs your energy more than your critics do. Today there are people listening who have spent too much time carrying the burden of other people's opinions. You have spent years trying to make everyone comfortable with your growth. You have spent years explaining decisions that were never theirs to approve. But there comes a season when you must stop asking for permission to become who you are meant to be. There comes a season when you stop talking and start building. Stop explaining and start growing. Stop defending and start becoming. Because the most powerful response to doubt is not another explanation, it is transformation. And the silent woman understood something that changed everything. When your life begins producing results, your explanations become unnecessary. Your character speaks, your actions speak, your consistency speaks, your growth speaks. And often, what takes 1,000 words to explain can be communicated by a life that refuses to quit. One of the most liberating moments in life comes when you realize that not everyone deserves an explanation. For many people, especially those with good hearts, there is a constant desire to be understood. They want others to know their intentions. They want people to see the truth behind their decisions. They want to clear up misunderstandings and correct false assumptions. While this may seem noble, it often becomes a trap that steals peace, confidence, and emotional energy. The silent woman learned this lesson through experience. She spent years explaining herself to people who had already formed opinions about her. Every decision she made was questioned. Every boundary she established was challenged. Every change she embraced seemed to require a defense. She found herself constantly trying to prove that she was not who others claimed she was. She thought that if she could just find the right words, people would finally understand her. But life taught her something important. Understanding is not created by better explanations. Understanding is created by an open heart. If someone genuinely wants to understand you, a simple conversation is enough. If someone is determined to judge you, even the most detailed explanation will never satisfy them. Many people spend years carrying the burden of other people's opinions. They explain why they changed careers. They explain why they ended certain relationships. They explain why they chose a different path. They explain why they set boundaries. They explain why they are pursuing a dream. And no matter how much they explain, there will always be someone who disagrees. The silent woman finally realized that she was wasting valuable energy trying to convince people who had no intention of being convinced. She was giving away her power every time she stopped her progress to defend herself against criticism. She was allowing other people's opinions to determine her emotional state. One day she made a decision. She decided that her peace was worth more than winning arguments. She decided that her future was more important than proving herself to people who had already judged her. She decided that she would no longer interrupt her growth to satisfy the curiosity, criticism, or approval of others. This decision did not make her arrogant, it made her wise. Wisdom understands that not every accusation requires a response. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Not every negative opinion deserves attention. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the highest expression of self-respect. The truth is that people often judge others based on their own experiences, fears, insecurities, and assumptions. You cannot control how others interpret your actions. You cannot control the stories they create in their minds. You cannot control the conclusions they reach. What you can control is how you respond. The silent woman learned to focus on what she could control. She focused on her character instead of her reputation. She focused on her purpose instead of public opinion. She focused on becoming better rather than being understood by everyone. As she stopped explaining herself, something remarkable began to happen. She felt lighter. The stress of constantly defending her choices began to disappear. The anxiety of needing approval started to fade. She discovered a new level of freedom because she was no longer carrying responsibilities that never belonged to her. Your responsibility is not to make everyone understand you. Your responsibility is to live with integrity. Your responsibility is to stay true to your values. Your responsibility is to continue growing into the person you were created to become. There will always be people who misunderstand your motives. There will always be people who criticize your choices. There will always be people who create opinions without knowing the full story. That is part of life. But you must never allow their judgment to become a prison for your future. The silent woman discovered that her life became more powerful when she stopped trying to explain every chapter of it. She learned that confidence grows when you trust yourself enough to move forward without constant validation. She learned that maturity means accepting that not everyone will understand your journey. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all was this. When you stop explaining yourself to people who have already judged you, you create space to focus on the things that truly matter. You stop wasting energy on defending your past and start investing energy in building your future. You stop chasing acceptance and start walking in purpose. And when that happens, your life begins to speak more clearly than your words ever could. One of the greatest forms of wisdom is learning where not to invest your energy. Many people think strength is found in fighting every battle, answering every criticism, and responding to every negative comment. They believe that silence means surrender, and that walking away means weakness. But the silent woman discovered something powerful. Not every battle is worth fighting, and not every argument deserves a response. For years, she felt responsible for correcting everyone who misunderstood her. Whenever someone criticized her, she felt the need to defend herself. Whenever someone spread false information about her, she felt pressured to explain the truth. Whenever someone questioned her choices, she immediately began building a case for her defense. She believed that if she stayed silent, people would assume she was wrong. What she did not realize was that every argument was costing her something valuable. It was costing her peace of mind. It was costing her emotional stability. It was costing her focus. Most importantly, it was costing her time. Time that could have been spent building her future instead of defending her present. Many people live this way every day. They wake up thinking about what someone said about them. They replay conversations in their minds. They create imaginary debates. They spend hours trying to prove a point to people who have no intention of listening. They carry emotional battles long after the conversation has ended. The problem with constant arguments is that they drain energy that was meant for your purpose. Every person is given a limited amount of emotional, mental, and physical energy each day. The question is not whether you have energy, the question is where you are investing it. The silent woman began to understand that every unnecessary argument was an investment with no return. She could spend hours defending herself and still not change someone's opinion. She could explain her motives repeatedly and still be misunderstood. She could prove every fact and still be criticized. That realization changed everything. She stopped viewing silence as weakness and started viewing it as wisdom. She learned that some people are not looking for understanding, they are looking for conflict. They do not ask questions because they want answers. They ask questions because they want control. They create drama because drama gives them attention. When you engage with every negative voice, you give those voices power over your emotions. You allow them to occupy space in your mind. You give them access to your peace. The silent woman realized that protecting her energy required setting boundaries, not just with people, but with conversations. She learned that one of the strongest words in the world is no. No to unnecessary arguments. No to endless explanations. No to toxic debates. No to emotional traps designed to distract her from her goals. As she began choosing silence over conflict, she noticed something remarkable. Her mind became clearer. Her focus became stronger. Her emotions became more stable. She no longer carried the weight of everyone's opinions. Instead of spending her energy reacting, she started spending her energy creating. She invested her time in personal growth. She invested her energy in learning new skills. She invested her focus in building the future she wanted. While others were busy discussing her life, she was busy improving it. This is a lesson many people need to learn. You cannot build a meaningful future if you are constantly distracted by meaningless battles. Every moment spent arguing with negativity is a moment stolen from your dreams. Every hour spent defending yourself is an hour that could have been used to strengthen yourself. The most successful people understand that focus is a form of power. They know that where attention goes, energy flows. That is why they carefully choose which conversations deserve their participation and which ones deserve their silence. The silent woman understood that peace is not something you find, it is something you protect. Every day she became more intentional about guarding her mind. She stopped allowing every criticism to enter her heart. She stopped allowing every opinion to influence her confidence. She stopped giving strangers the authority to determine her worth. This did not mean she ignored constructive feedback. Wisdom welcomes growth. But she learned to distinguish between correction and criticism, between guidance and negativity, between voices that wanted to help and voices that only wanted to hurt. The more she protected her energy, the stronger she became. The more she chose peace over arguments, the more productive she became. The more she walked away from unnecessary conflict, the more room she created for purpose, joy, and progress. She discovered a truth that transformed her life. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to answer every accusation. You do not have to fight every battle. Sometimes the greatest victory is preserving your energy for the life you are trying to build. And in that silence, she found a strength that arguments could never give her. A strength rooted in self-control, wisdom, and the confidence to keep moving forward without distraction. There comes a point in every person's life when they must decide whether they will spend their energy talking about who they are or becoming who they are. The silent woman reached that point after years of trying to explain herself. She had spent so much time defending her intentions, clarifying her decisions, and correcting people's opinions that she barely noticed how much of her life was being consumed by words. Then she discovered a truth that changed everything. Actions have a voice that words can never match. Words are important, but words alone do not build trust. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can make claims about their character. Anyone can talk about what they plan to do. But actions reveal what is truly happening beneath the surface. Actions expose commitment. Actions reveal discipline. Actions prove integrity. The silent woman realized that no matter how carefully she explained herself, some people would still doubt her. Some people would still criticize her. Some people would still question her motives. Instead of exhausting herself trying to change their opinions, she made a different choice. She decided to let her life become the answer. She stopped announcing every goal. She stopped explaining every decision. She stopped seeking approval before taking action. Instead, she quietly went to work. While others were talking, she was growing. While others were judging, she was improving. While others were questioning her, she was developing herself. Day by day, she focused on becoming stronger, wiser, and more disciplined. She understood that true transformation does not happen in public conversations. It happens in private commitment. It happens in the moments when nobody is watching. It happens when you continue working toward your purpose, even when there is no applause. Many people become trapped in what they say they will do. They talk about success more than they pursue it. They discuss their dreams more than they build them. They explain their plans to everyone around them, hoping for encouragement and validation. But the silent woman learned that real confidence comes from action, not announcements. She understood that results create a language everyone understands. People may doubt your words, but they cannot deny consistent effort. People may question your intentions, but they struggle to argue with visible growth. People may criticize your vision, but success has a way of speaking for itself. The silent woman no longer felt the need to convince people that she was changing. She simply changed. She no longer felt the need to explain her value. She invested in becoming valuable. She no longer felt the need to tell everyone she was strong. She developed strength through daily discipline. Over time, something remarkable happened. The same people who once questioned her began noticing her progress. The same people who doubted her decisions started seeing the results. The same people who expected her to fail became witnesses to her growth. Not because she argued with them, not because she persuaded them, but because her actions spoke louder than her explanations ever could. This is one of the greatest principles of personal growth. When your actions and your words align, credibility is created. When your behavior consistently reflects your values, trust is established. When your daily habits support your goals, progress becomes inevitable. The silent woman learned that talking less about her purpose gave her more time to pursue it. Every moment she once spent defending herself became a moment invested in self-development. Every conversation she once used to prove her worth became an opportunity to increase her worth. She began reading more, learning more, growing more, building more. And the more she focused on action, the less she felt the need for validation. That is because genuine confidence is not built from compliments. It is built from evidence. It is built from keeping promises to yourself. It is built from doing what you said you would do, even when nobody is watching. It is built from showing up consistently, especially on the days when motivation is absent. Many people want respect before they have developed the habits that earn it. They want recognition before they have done the work that deserves it. They want people to believe in them before they have fully believed in themselves. The silent woman chose a different path. She decided that her responsibility was not to manage other people's opinions. Her responsibility was to manage her own actions. She understood that every day offered a choice. She could either spend her time explaining why she deserved success, or she could spend her time becoming the kind of person capable of achieving it. She chose growth. She chose discipline. She chose action. And slowly, her life became a testimony that required no defense. The most powerful statement she ever made was not spoken with her mouth. It was written through her consistency. It was demonstrated through her character. It was revealed through her results. In the end, she discovered a lesson that many people spend years trying to learn. Words may introduce you, but actions define you. Explanations may capture attention for a moment, but consistent action earns respect for a lifetime. When your life reflects your values, your actions become your strongest voice, and that voice can be heard long after the words have faded away. One of the most powerful transformations a person can experience is reaching the point where they no longer need constant approval from others to feel valuable. This is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is not believing that other people's opinions do not matter at all. It is simply understanding that your worth cannot be determined by someone else's acceptance. The silent woman discovered this truth, and it changed the way she lived her life. For a long time, she measured herself through the eyes of others. If people approved of her choices, she felt confident. If people praised her, she felt successful. If people agreed with her decisions, she felt secure. But whenever criticism came, her confidence weakened. Whenever someone questioned her, she began doubting herself. Whenever approval disappeared, so did her sense of certainty. This created a dangerous cycle. Her emotional stability became dependent on other people. Her confidence rose and fell based on opinions she could not control. She was giving strangers, critics, and even well-meaning friends the power to define how she felt about herself. Many people live this way without realizing it. They constantly seek validation before making decisions. They hesitate to pursue their dreams because they fear criticism. They delay their growth because they want everyone to understand and support their journey. They spend so much time looking for approval that they forget to trust themselves. The silent woman eventually realized something important. No matter what you do in life, someone will disagree with you. No matter how carefully you make your decisions, someone will criticize them. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand your intentions. If your confidence depends on universal approval, you will spend your entire life waiting for something that never arrives. The moment she understood this, she began to change. She stopped asking everyone what they thought before taking action. She stopped allowing criticism to control her direction. She stopped believing that agreement was necessary for progress. Instead, she started listening more carefully to her values, her purpose, and her convictions. This did not mean she became stubborn or unwilling to learn. True confidence is not refusing advice. True confidence is being able to receive advice without becoming dependent on it. It is having the wisdom to listen while still maintaining responsibility for your own decisions. The silent woman learned that confidence grows when you keep promises to yourself. Every time she followed through on a commitment, her confidence increased. Every time she acted according to her values, her self-respect deepened. Every time she remained faithful to her purpose despite opposition, she became stronger. Many people think confidence comes from success, but success alone does not create confidence. There are successful people who are still insecure because they depend on constant praise. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and why you are moving in a certain direction. The silent woman stopped looking outside herself for constant reassurance. She realized that if she depended on applause to keep moving forward, she would stop every time the applause disappeared. She needed something stronger than public approval. She needed inner conviction. Inner conviction is what allows a person to continue when nobody believes in them. It is what allows a person to keep working when results are not yet visible. It is what allows a person to remain faithful to a vision that others cannot see. Some of the greatest achievements in history were accomplished by people who faced criticism, rejection, and doubt. If they had waited for everyone to agree with them, they would never have begun. Their confidence came from purpose, not popularity. The silent woman embraced this principle. She stopped chasing acceptance and started pursuing growth. She stopped trying to fit into expectations that limited her potential. She stopped allowing fear of judgment to silence her dreams. As she did, a new level of freedom entered her life. She no longer felt trapped by other people's opinions. She no longer felt obligated to justify every decision. She no longer feared being misunderstood. Her confidence became rooted in something deeper than approval. It became rooted in character. Character remains steady when praise disappears. Character remains steady when criticism increases. Character remains steady when circumstances change. The more she developed her character, the less she needed validation. She understood that people could support her or reject her, agree with her or disagree with her, praise her or criticize her, but none of those things had the authority to define her worth. That authority belonged to her understanding of who she was and who she was becoming. This is where true confidence is born. It is born when you stop seeking permission to pursue your purpose. It is born when you stop allowing fear of rejection to determine your choices. It is born when you understand that your value is not something others give you. It is something you recognize within yourself. The silent woman became powerful not because everyone approved of her, but because she no longer needed everyone to approve of her. She learned to walk forward with courage even when agreement was absent. She learned to trust her purpose even when understanding was limited. She learned to believe in her journey even when others questioned it. And in that freedom, she discovered one of life's greatest truths. The strongest people are not those who receive the most approval. The strongest people are those who remain faithful to their purpose, whether approval comes or not.